Welcome back to another episode of AIBiz, dear listeners. I'm your host Avik, and today we are diving into a topic that sits at the crossroads of business, technology, and creativity. Please welcome my guest, Dan Charles. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Amazing, doing great, and lovely, Dan. You joined us today. And before we delve deep into the discussion, I'll quickly love to introduce you to the listeners. Dear listeners, Dan is the founder of Codarity, a performance marketing agency dedicated to the events industry. So, Dan isn't just kind of another marketing strategist, but he's lived the event world from the inside. Yeah. So, from scaling small 60-person shows to massive 3,000 plus capacity productions, he's seen firsthand like why so many event businesses fall into the feast or famine trap. Yeah. So, out of those experiences, he developed the Evergreen Event Profit System, a framework that helps event companies break free from the uncertainty and build the consistent, predictable revenues. Yeah. So he and his team also specialize in custom AI and automation solutions. So cutting edge tools that are reshaping how events are marked and marketed, booked, and scaled. And if you have ever wondered like how AI will change life experiences, ticket sales, or the business of events, then you are in the right place. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Dan.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So then, just story starts with the music industry, right? So where, so you scaled events from the tiny rooms to thousands of attendees. So I mean, what was the biggest marketing mistake that you made early on that shaped the way you now help others?
Sure. So one of the biggest mistakes early on was that classic film, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And not actually doing any marketing at the very beginning at all, and just hoping that people would show up. And then it was really just relying on venues and other kind of like local kind of student influencers or like business influencers, depending on the types of events, expecting them to kind of do quite a lot of that sort of heavy lifting for you. And so, really, from there, what I found was that you actually have to do significantly more than what you think is a decent amount of marketing. But then, if you do get it right, it can make a significant difference, and it can be the difference between sleeping well at night or losing money on every event. So definitely the biggest mistake was just not really marketing, just relying on word of mouth and things like that, which is great. We all love to be referred, but just expecting that to kind of be the thing was a big mistake in the beginning.
Okay, okay. So I mean, can you recall like one specific campaign that flopped? What was the turning point in how you approached marketing after that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of about the point where we were gone from the smaller venues, because the very small venues were kind of quite easy going. You know, you could just pretty much go up to the venue and just be like, hey, look, we can fill this with some people, 30, 40, 50 people or so, and they're like, yeah, great. There wasn't a lot of money to be made in those, obviously. They just had
Mm,
a bit of kind of maybe some turnover for drinks and things like that sort of thing, and we might get a small
mm,
stub for the ticket and things. But it was really kind of when we started going into the venues where they could hold multiple hundreds of people, like 2, 3, 4, 500 people.
mm,
That's when the seams really started to show, the cracks really started to show. Because, for example, we had invested in a big top name act to come to the event. And it was without really studying the local market and what was actually going on. We knew a lot of the other um, venues and people who were running events in the area, but we kind of saw them almost as like, I wouldn't say enemies, but kind of competitors, because we still spoke to them. It was all amicable, but we kind of saw them as competitors. And because of that, we ultimately all, I think it was us and three others, ultimately put on an event on the same night in the same town, targeting the same people. And none of those events that night did well. In fact, they all lost money. And so it was really just understanding that there is that aspect of events, which is really human first, is it's about communicating. It's about bringing people together in one way or another, you see. We kind of all really realized at that point, hey, if we'd actually just spoken to each other, kind of got over our egos a bit, had a chat, and understood what we were all planning, we might have just chosen different dates to do it on because we were flexible. And then we might probably have all had more of a chance to actually collaborate on something, make something special, and then not all lose out as a result of that. And so it was kind of like at that point we had started doing some marketing, just kind of regular flyer campaigns, kind of local kind of guerrilla tactics and things like that. Some videos here and there, some kind of organic social and things. But it was really at that point kind of coming up against the same thing of like, oh, there's these other, two events sort of thing. Which one should I go to? And then they're asking me which one they should go to. And of course I'm going to say our one, but then everyone's saying that as well. And so it was really just an early insight of mine was actually know your market, understand the audience and what's going on in your market, even on a small scale can make a massive difference. And from there onwards, I was like, well, that's not going to happen again. I'm not going to allow that to happen again. So I actually started really focusing on our audience and who our ideal kind of, customers were, who our ideal attendees were. And really from there, I started becoming a lot more interested in how we can kind of reach them with more unique marketing and so forth as well. So yeah, so what it was not communicating, not collaborating, not looking in partnerships, not believing in a network, and then not really looking into your own market was probably the biggest mistake. And yeah, I lost multiple thousands of pounds on that night as a result. It was quite painful.
Got it. Understood. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you are willing to share this mistakes because uh, most people only talk about their wins, but the truth is the empty rooms teach us just as much as uh, sold out ones, right? So that's
Yeah.
really really appreciable. Yeah. And also like I was mentioning in the beginning about the feast and famine. So you have said that most event businesses suffer from the unpredictable revenue cycles. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like, why do you think that this problem is so universal in the industry?
Yeah, so it's really very, very common I see it across this industry. So I think one of the main things is that a lot of them are relying on word of mouth to generate the business for them. And it's the belief that fantastic work will always lead to more fantastic work. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. It's kind of like these days in this competitive climate, you're expected to deliver fantastic work, right? And obviously, you always want to be documenting that. You always want to be case studying it. You always want to be showcasing that as best as you possibly can. But it's kind of like no one's hiring a business who says we do rubbish work. We're not very good at what we do, right? Everyone wants the best. And so I feel like a lot of the time, because of the way the industry is laid out, is that, for example, more recently, we work with a lot more kind of larger, obviously, event agencies and services who tend to work more with kind of corporate clients with, 5, 6 figure, sometimes 7 figure deals for an event. Um, they're often talking with those clients, sometimes 12 months plus in advance of that event. And a lot of businesses who are just relying on referrals are kind of, they're getting those referrals through, but they're only coming through very sporadically throughout the year because of the seasonality of the events industry. You kind of got the classic Q4 where everyone's kind of talking about the end of year things, and then you kind of got the conference circuit over the summer and so forth. And so what really happens there is because they're relying on word of mouth and the timeline for larger scale events is so long that someone who may have given you a referral might not even be at that company in 12 months time. Right. So then then they've kind of moved on, and then all the great work you did for that business is kind of gone at that point. So you can't really capture it again. And so I feel like events businesses, they're very used to planning very far in advance for their clients, but they don't really plan very far in advance for their marketing and being top of mind. In my opinion, you should be absolutely top of mind all year round, not just during the busy season. And because of that, if you can do that, you can build a lot more momentum in a very positive way. And you have to understand that there are going to be quieter seasons and they're going to be busier seasons. But if you have a really good all year round strategy, those quieter seasons can still be very profitable, and the busiest seasons can be planned ahead much more from a resource kind of point of view, so that they can be profitable uh, too. So it's really just not thinking ahead as much as they should do, and just understanding that marketing should be something which is 365 days of the year. And the bigger the client or the bigger the project, the longer the timeline it is. And therefore, the more touch points you need to have, and the further ahead you need to be marketing to appeal to those people.
Exactly. Yep. So, um, what shifts, like once an event company moves from relying on the referrals to having a systematic lead generation strategy?
So I think one of the biggest shifts I see with clients who start getting regular lead flow, compared to when they just don't really know when the next project's coming in. For those clients who are able to start generating a regular, good quality lead flow and traction in the market, they it frees them up. They don't always realize how much stress and bandwidth it's actually taking up, not knowing what next quarter is looking like at the moment. And so we used to have that quite a lot at the very beginning, was people would come to us because they're already deep into Q2, for example, and don't have anything on the calendar. And then they almost expect an immediate turnaround result because they're now speaking to a marketing agency and we're going to come along and fix everything for them. Now, the problem with that is that if they don't have any of that kind of repeatable system in place, like they don't have that top of mind marketing, they don't have a really well built out online presence, they don't have ads that are dialed in, they don't have kind of their own voice and their own ideal client persona who they're going after, all of that still needs to be built. And obviously, if you're coming to someone like an agency with just a few weeks to spare before you kind of hit the, uh, before you kind of hit the red, as it were, then it's going to cost you 3, 4, 5x more than it would be if you had all this collateral which had been moving forward and working in your favor in a repeatable way. And so when we have clients who are then starting to generate good quality inbound inquiries, qualified inquiries on a regular monthly basis, they do start stretching their time horizon. They start realizing, oh, hang on a minute, I was only normally planning for Q1, but now I've got people coming to me asking about Q3 sort of thing. So they are able to then start really looking quite a bit further ahead. And that's when we can really kind of come in and work with them on, like, this is a seasonality we see in the industry. These are the trends that we see. These are the topics which are coming up and starting to gain interest in the market. And these are the trends across the different seasons that we're seeing. So these are the kind of ways that we suggest you look to plan for Q3, even though you're in Q1 right now. And a happy side effect of that is that even though the events industry, there's a million things going on, there's crazy stuff happening all the time, they're always running around very, very busy, trying to deliver projects and things like that. Not having to worry about where your next deal coming from is a massive game changer for a lot of them. And they are able to start working on their business and doing a lot more of that creative stuff that they really enjoy. And that's where we get the most reward from, is when they can start really focusing in those areas where we know that they do amazing work and we can help them showcase that in the right way to build momentum for them.
Exactly. Exactly true. Yep. And wow. So and it really resonates because even outside of events, because many industries face the same unpredictability, it's really eye opening to see how your frameworks create the stability where chaos, I mean, usually rules, right? So that's the important part. Yeah, definitely. And Codarity also focuses on building AI, which I'm really very curious. So AI and the automation solutions for the event sector. So, um, like, how is AI reshaping marketing for the live experience in a ways that the traditional methods cannot? I mean, if you can
Mm.
share.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So we build out quite a lot of custom AI and automation solutions for our clients at the moment. And that basically came about first from, okay, so now they've got good marketing in place. Now they're getting good deal flows and things like that. Now they're actually just really busy dealing with all these kinds of things, you know. And so we kind of started trying to work on ways to automate parts of the sales process and just even automating the CRM and things like that, and realizing that naturally we could start plugging AI into a lot of those systems and start crunching that data, whether it was kind of like nurturing leads or setting appointments or providing customer service or, you know, providing kind of support for their representatives and things leading up to the events. And a prime example fairly recently was we had a client who they run 100 different events a year. They have about, I think it was about 100,000, 120,000 or so footfall to their events per year. And they had some events which were abroad, and they were struggling to really get those events off the ground and really going. And so we were able to help them with the marketing piece, and they started getting a lot of great inquiries and, you know, registrations and things. But their team was getting absolutely hammered by hundreds and hundreds of queries at that point, every single week. And they were losing sales and things like that because their team weren't able to get back to them. So a prime example of that was we were able to implement a customer service kind of AI that really was kind of trained on all that client's knowledge. And it was then able to start responding to queries at scale via the website. And it was taking 2, 3, 400 queries per week. But not only that, it was also able to direct them to the right place to register. It was also able to provide follow-up for them. It was able to raise tickets to the support team where it could. It was able to respond across all channels for that client, everything from WhatsApp to live chat to social to email. And as a result of that, they were then able to convert a significant amount more. We estimate about 35% more of their paid traffic was able to convert as a result of that frontline bot just being there to really kind of be on those front lines and answer those questions immediately, 24/7. And I think it's becoming a point where people are expecting immediate answers and immediate support, you know? And so they were able to kind of do that at scale. And and really from there we got a ton of learnings, because without going down a rabbit hole, we were then able to take all of that information that the AI had captured over 2.5, 3 months of running that for them up to the lead up to the event. We were able to capture that, and then we were able to crunch all of those queries. And then we were able to find those top 20 or 30 frequently asked questions that actually hadn't been asked by the client or answered by the client. So we had all the usual stuff like, where's the event? What's the location? What's the ticket price? What are the local hotels? All these kinds of things. But it was all the underlying questions that people had. They might have had concerns about a certain aspect of the event. And so those kind of things they were able to then start answering in other events that they ran, and got a much better reception, and were able to continue improving registration rates as a result of that. And they found that genuinely quite eye-opening.
True, true. Yeah. And for someone who is skeptical about AI, like thinking it's too technical or too impersonal, um, how do you show them that it's human side, the part that actually enhances connection?
Yeah, really good question there. So we definitely get this a lot in the events industry because it's a very creative human to human industry, right? And what they feel is that they don't want the AI to take away the creativity from them and that human to human element. And I just say to him, I said, okay, I completely understand that you want to have that one-to-one experience with each individual. But would you be better served asking that individual 30 questions that they've already answered in a registration, again, whilst you're at the event, so that you can tailor something to them specifically for that event that's going to be impactful for them? Or would you rather just have a conversation about their interests at the event straight away and then be able to kind of guide them towards the most value they're going to get from the event? Because prime example, an AI can kind of go through your CRM and it can crunch the data on thousands of attendees all at once, and then it can create a personalized, um, a personalized agenda for the event for each individual person there based on what they've actually answered in their registrations. And therefore, you as the human can go in there and go like, hey, Joe, I see that you're really interested in XYZ. Sort of thing. By the way, we've actually got a special VIP who's been booked on at the last minute who might be of interest to you. They're talking about A, B, and C sort of thing. And that's the kind of stuff where you're not spending the time doing that really laborious, tedious, repetitive task in the background. You're surfacing the most valuable information for that person, and then you can deliver to them as a person. And so it's, the way I sort of see it is, how can you automate away the more tedious, boring, repetitive, number crunching work to provide a better experience for one human to another instead? And so we don't use AI a lot on the creative side of things for clients. We use it much more specifically on how it can be kind of used to kind of give them more bandwidth, as it were, to deal with human-to-human interaction in a much more meaningful way.
Exactly. And like looking ahead, like what trends do you see? I mean, shaping the events industry over the next 5 years, especially with AI and automation.
Mm, mm. So I see a convergence of digital and physical events. We're seeing a lot more hybrid naturally as a result of that, but I do see a lot of digital still being important, but it's almost like bringing the event to you, as it were, beforehand in a lot of ways, and then kind of joining the gap between that digital and physical world. So I see hybrid as a really big expansion area. I mean, it's set to in the next 3-4 years or so, is set to be valued at about 9.25 billion, I believe it is. And so it's going to be growing more and more. But from that and research that I've done recently, the younger generations, Gen Z and so forth, they prefer physical events over digital ones, probably because they're born in digital, right? They spend all their time around digital and devices and social and stuff. So they value physical, real world experiences more than anything. And so the events that are going to really win, event brands that are going to really win over the next 5 years or so, I believe are the ones who are going to be able to personalize those events to each attendee in much more unique and interesting ways, and ultimately provide an augmented approach to events, which can, guide each attendee to get the maximum value out of that event. And whether that is just to be there and soak up the atmosphere, or whether it's to kind of learn something new, there should be a lot more personalization for each attendee at each event, and then ultimately surfacing the way that they can get the most value for that. And then it gets out of the way to let them go and actually enjoy the event and things. So I feel that hybrid's going to be way, way bigger than just digital events moving forward. Physical is still going to be the king by any stretch. But I feel like hybrid is a way for event businesses to really reach a much more global scale and combine the two together in very unique ways. And personalize the entire user journey using automation and AI is going to be the thing which is going to allow you to scale from, say, a conference which can hold 5,000 people to a conference that can hold 5,000 people and then a global audience of like 50,000 people or 100,000 people globally. So it's just event businesses, I feel, just need to think bigger as well sometimes and just realize that actually there's a lot more things that could be managed at scale to deliver a very personalized experience.
Agree. Amazing, amazing. And uh, before we move, like, any suggestion or advice you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, so I feel like basically a lot of the time, a lot of event businesses and just businesses in general, they want to market to everyone. That I ask them, who's your audience? Who's your ideal client? And they go, well, everyone or someone with money. Like, and the problem with that is, it's like, well, a corporate event client with a £400,000 budget for an event is very different to a local venue who just needs £1,000 audiovisual installation. And then, you kind of understand that they're both going to have very different buyer journeys and expectations. So you sort of shouting to both of them that you can help them both. A, you spread yourself too thin, but B, you don't really attract either. In fact, you repel both. And so one thing I feel a lot of businesses and in the event industry, I feel this is really poignant, is they don't have an ideal client persona in place, and they don't really believe in that. And they feel like having an ideal kind of avatar for your business is actually going to stump growth or hinder their opportunities. Whereas if we actually think about the scale we're at now in the world, there's like 8 billion people or something, 8.1 billion people on this planet. So going after a niche within a niche and then an ideal client within that niche is still massive, right? Because if you're putting on 6-figure events for clients and things like that, hell, 5 or 10 new clients in a year could add 7 figures of revenue to your business. And so I feel like people are scared of doing that, but actually having a very clear idea of who your ideal customer is, and then ruthlessly spending your time understanding all their challenges, hopes, dreams, pains, fears, worries, desires, and aspirations, and then laser focused work on showcasing how you can help them with all of those goals and challenges can position you as a strategic partner who ultimately can command a higher value. You can get higher conversion rates as a result of this, and your marketing is much more succinct, and you can scale much better. And a lot of people feel like their total addressable market is already tapped out. And it's like, I mean, like Alex Mosey says, like, there's like X amount of businesses in this niche in this country, and you have 1,000 of them or something, or you have 100 of them. There's another 2.4 million. You're not tapped out at all. You just haven't really thought big enough on how you can reach those ideal people. And I feel like an ideal client persona is the best first point to go to for any business. And yeah, AI and machine learning and those things can really help with that type of thing. It can help you do the research, it can help you do the heavy lifting, and help you with your messaging. It can help you refine, it can help you iterate, and it can help you scale as well. So yeah, so know your audience, I think is the number one thing, and ruthlessly go after serving them better than anyone else.
Exactly. Amazing. Lovely. Dan, I mean, this has been such an insightful conversation. And from your personal journey of struggling with the empty venues to helping clients generate the millions and the predictable revenue, I would say you have shown us that success is not just about the luck. It's all about the system, strategy, smart use of technology. It's all involved. So, uh, for the listeners, I'd love to say, like, the biggest takeaway is this: that don't just chase the next big idea. Build a framework that makes growth sustainable, whether you are in the events or in any other industry. That lesson is universal. And Dan, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me on there, LinkedIn/Dan Charles, and you'll see my face there. Feel free to connect with me. Drop me a message if you got any questions or anything like that. I'd be happy to kind of help. I post a lot of research content, insights, frameworks, freebies, and guides, and kind of hot takes and things as well on there. I do have a presence on other social channels, but LinkedIn is the place where I'm actively working. And also on our website as well, codarity.com. That's CODARITY.com. I regularly publish my own insights and research on different posts on the website. We actually posted one quite recently about some research we did around corporate event buyers and their use of AI and how you can kind of build a framework to start showing up in those search results for clients. So I'm regularly posting content on the website, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Dan Charles.
Amazing. Lovely. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for easy reference so that you can easily reach out to Dan. And with this hope, until next time, please remember that a healthy mind and a healthy life also comes from building stability in a world, not just chasing the highs. So, stay curious, stay strategic, and keep creating experience that matter. So, thank you so much.